Are you actually moving in alignment with your intuition? Are you actually making aligned moves in your business? Or have you actually been subconsciously responding to your ego self? Have you been making moves in alignment with your limiting beliefs, with your doubt, with your resistance? This is what I want to dive into today with you. This is actually inspired by a post I created today. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend going to check out that reel, because in that reel, I gave you a specific journal prompt. Save it, literally save that reel, come back to it and do the journal prompt when you actually have time and space. Because when you do and you answer this question powerfully and you take this conversation that we're going to have today in this live seriously, and you genuinely, like, truthfully have this moment with yourself where you're like, okay, where have I been moving from? You have the potential to completely change the trajectory, the growth of your business for this next half of 2024. That is how powerful this journal prompt is that I shared in that last reel that I created. And that is how powerful this conversation is going to be today, because this is the thing that most spiritual entrepreneurs are struggling with. I see this so much, both in clients and also just when I see people like showing up in this space. This is what I see most spiritual entrepreneurs struggling with, and it's what I struggled with as well. And this is why I'm so passionate about talking about this, because for so long I was stuck in this cycle in my business where I wasn't seeing momentum forward. I wasn't seeing my revenue increase. Things weren't changing. And it was for months like this, right? And it felt like I'm doing all of the things. I've put myself out there. I have this business. I have this offers, right? Like, why aren't things actually moving forward, right? Why are they staying the same? Why am I stuck in the same experiences where clients are reaching out, or potential clients, I should say, were reaching out, but not actually making the move to buy with me? Why am I always making just enough for what I need, but never any more, right? Why does it feel like nothing is ever like growing in my space? And it was because I was staying the same. I was making moves in my business that were actually in alignment with my fears, with my limiting beliefs, with my self-doubt. And that's how I was moving. I wasn't aware of it for a while. And this was the thing that kept me where I was. And I see so many spiritual entrepreneurs stuck in this. And they think they're actually moving in alignment with their intuition, with their soul, that they're listening to what feels good. But in fact, they're actually moving in alignment with ego. And the very simple way to figure out if this is you or not, you're going to know if this is you or not after this conversation, but the very simple way to figure out is this you or not is like, look at your experience. Have you been stuck in the same shit again and again? Because everything you see is just a mirror. It's a mirror of your internal world. It's only ever responding to who you are being. So if things aren't changing in your outer reality, you're not changing, you're not growing, right? You're staying the same. So that's a really good indication to be like, okay, there's a good chance here that I am listening to my ego. Now, this is a big thing that I say spiritual entrepreneurs do specifically. And it's because of this idea that we're fed in this space. And this is the reason why, there were two reasons here why I didn't realize that I was following my ego. So that's another thing that I really want to highlight here. You might not actually know that your ego has been calling the shots, and that's okay. And this is why I mean, like, take this moment to just be honest with yourself, be truthful with yourself. And this is why I say when you like have the self-awareness, the power is back into your hands now, because it's like now you have the eyes to see. You can choose to move differently from this point forward. But this isn't going to happen if you start shaming and blaming yourself, or you resist the truth of what's there because of what you're making that mean about you, going into shame spirals. You're not going to get anywhere by doing that. So don't do that. Don't go into shame spirals. Don't like put yourself down if this has been you, because now that if this has been you, and you're having that realization through this conversation, through the journal prompt I provided in that reel, then that's okay. you get to now have the power put back into your hands, and you get to make different choices. This is the power of self-awareness. So it's okay. It happens to the best of us. I was definitely stuck in this cycle as well in my business. And I genuinely thought that I was moving in alignment. I thought that I was listening to my intuition, but the truth was I was actually ignoring my shadow self. I was ignoring the fears that I was feeling, the limiting beliefs that I was feeling, the doubt that I was feeling. It was too hard to look at. I had so much like self-hatred, self-judgment. I had so many limited views on myself. Like I felt so much resistance, and the emotion was so hard to look at that it was just easier to ignore. It was easier to avoid. And that's what I would opt in for. I would opt in to gaslighting myself every time those emotions would come up. And then I would try and just like either distract myself with something else, or I would try and like force a feeling of desire and alignment that wasn't actually the case, right? Whenever I felt this like icky energy, or like I said, I would avoid the emotion either through ignoring it, like distracting myself with social media or something else, or I would actually stop doing the action that was causing the emotion to come up, right? So a big one for me was selling. I fucking hated selling. Selling made me feel so like, it felt icky. It felt embarrassing. It felt not right. It just felt off, right? And I wouldn't sell because whenever I would sell, these emotions would come up. And because I didn't like these emotions, I would be like, that's an unaligned feeling. So I'm going to get back into the energy of alignment. Now, another reason I would do this beyond it being hard to look at these emotions was because of what we're told in this space. We're told that when you are in these emotional frequencies, that you're going to attract a negative experience, right? And so many people take this so literally to the point where they don't honor themselves, they don't honor their emotions, they don't honor what is actually alive and aligned for them in that moment, right? They don't allow themselves to actually process and transmute pain. Instead, they feel these negative limiting emotions, they freak out that they're there, and then they push them down, right? They push them down, and then it becomes a stagnant emotion that gets trapped in your energy body, and also can lead to being trapped in your physical body as well, which leads to like physical ailments and things like that, right? So these are the two reasons why I would avoid my shadow self like the fucking plague. And I was in this like period of just like gaslighting myself. So this is like something I'm so passionate to talk about now, because like being able to work with your shadow self, being able to work with your limiting beliefs and actually know what it means to allow an emotion to be there and genuinely let it like pass through your system without attaching meaning to it, without freaking out that it's there, without avoiding it. Like it's just so fucking powerful, because you develop this like next level trust with yourself and this next level trust with life, and you become not afraid to live life because you're not afraid to actually process emotions and all of the things, because you know how to do that. You know what that process feels like, and you don't have to be afraid of pain, fear, frustration, and all of the things. So it's my favorite thing. It's what I do in all of my spaces now. A lot of like my recent things have been on this. So if this is something you're needing help with, I have the Fuck the Doubt masterclass where I talk about how to do this. I have Anchored where I talk about how to do this in specific to money. It's an embodiment tool. It's so fucking good. Or this is something I dive into and I do with you. I take you through the process, like we're doing life and business together in my one-on-one spaces. And this is a big part of like what we talk about, like how to actually transmute this emotion and actually turn it into something that you desire, into something that's powerful and can work for you and where you're going in your business, which is what we want to do with these emotions, because every emotion serves a purpose in your life. Anyway, I'm going off tangent now, but this is what would happen. So I would put up a reel where I'd be selling something, and then I would get crickets in return, and it would trigger this it would trigger this rejection wound. Nobody cares Nobody's listening, nobody's paying attention. It made me feel rejected. I didn't want that feeling, so I would avoid it. So subconsciously, I'm like distracting myself with all of these other things. I'm like learning, I'm consuming information, trying to find the answer that's going to make this all work. Well, a week's gone by in my business and I haven't sold. I haven't sold a fucking thing, right? And then I have that realization, and then I'm like, okay, let me go and sell again, right? Let me go and do this again. And then I go do that. And then again, those emotions are triggered. I'm like, fuck, I hate that emotion. This is uncomfortable. This means I'm going to attract this into my experience. So let me actually change this emotion and let me move here now. And let me like basically distract myself for another week, for another 2 weeks, subconsciously haven't fucking done a thing in my business. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, I haven't sold again. Let me sell again. And then it's like the cycle would repeat itself. So I was not actually moving in alignment with my true soul aligned desires, which was to be that confident entrepreneur, right? Who was excited to invite people into their world, who felt good receiving money for my soul's work, right? That was another thing that was happening in the background. Whenever I would actually receive a sale coming through, I would close off, I would shut down energetically. So even like, it's like, and those emotions I was avoiding because it was conflicting with my desire and what I was trying to create, which was momentum and sales coming through. But whenever the sale would come through, I would close off and be like, are they going to want a refund? What happens if the client wants this and then they're going to like me and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I would actually avoid even having that experience of experiencing my desire because I was avoiding facing my shadow self. So many entrepreneurs are acting in alignment with that. And I see this mostly there's like so many ways that this can show up, but the biggest one I see is with selling. So many people are actually avoiding putting themselves out there, selling their offers, selling their things because it feels like nobody cares when they're selling online. It feels like nobody's there. When people don't respond, it triggers this wound. And maybe some people can ignore it for like, a week, but then after that week's done, they go into, see, it's not working. See, what's the point? These emotions are too hard to face. These emotions are too hard to work through. So I just rather not. So then they stop doing the thing that's causing the resistance, right? And so many spiritual entrepreneurs think it doesn't feel right. This isn't getting better. The feeling isn't moving, so therefore this is an unaligned action. This is not in alignment. The biggest thing I want you to understand when you walk away from this conversation is that your intuition, the aligned next steps that you have, where your soul is actually calling you to do, what your soul is calling you to do, that action is most likely going to be rooted in fear. Not always, but a lot of the time it's going to be rooted in fear, and it's going to have you facing these parts of yourself that are going to be difficult to look at, that are going to be hard to face. Because your evolution, your soul, your intuition, your evolution, why did I say that? Your intuition, your soul is concerned with your evolution. There we go. Your intuition, your soul is concerned with your evolution. You cannot grow when you are staying the same. So it's going to push you out of your comfort zone so that you can become more. So often your aligned next steps are actually rooted in resistance, are rooted in fear, push you, right? And it's because of this. So when you're avoiding taking those steps because it's causing all of this like energy that feels misaligned, and it's because it is. That energy is misaligned. It doesn't mean that the action is misaligned. That's really important to hear right now. It doesn't mean that the action is misaligned. It means that your energy is misaligned, and that's what actually needs shifting. That's what needs addressing. That's what we actually have to see and transmute. This is so important. And this is what I want you to walk away with. This is where I want to leave the conversation. I want you to go to that reel, grab that journal prompt, and actually start thinking about this. Ponder on this. Have you been listening to resistance? Have you actually been walking in alignment with your fears? Have you actually been listening to your doubt and your limiting beliefs? Have you been avoiding doing the uncomfortable things because you've been avoiding your shadow self? You've been avoiding doing the thing that's actually going to lead to your evolution and your change, both internally and externally. This entire thing that you see right now, look around wherever your business is at, it is just a reflection of who you have been, not who you are becoming. If you want the outside to change, if you want the business to change, if you want your finances to improve, you need to improve. You need to change how you've been doing things. You need to be different. You need to walk differently. This is how you're going to get to your next level. This is how you're actually going to create momentum in your life, by pondering on this question. And once you recognize where you've been walking in alignment with your ego, make a different choice. Choose differently now. Now that you know this, choose differently. What can you do differently? Right? You've noticed resistance with selling. Write that down. Be like, yeah, okay, I don't like selling because it causes all of these fucking emotions within me. It feels so uncomfortable. Make a rule for yourself. Okay, well, I'm going to face this emotion every single day until I do not feel this anymore. That's what I did. With selling, I was like, all right, here, I feel uncomfortable selling. This is my rule. I'm going to make sure that I show up every single day, regardless of what I feel. And I don't give myself an out. A lot of people are like, oh my God, but you're not moving with energy and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I cannot honor myself and honor my alignment until I transmute this fear. So by not giving yourself an option to be like, you're doing this every single day until the fear is transmuted, until you don't even fucking think about it. That's what I want you to do. And then you can choose to like let go of that. Like once the fear is transmuted, then you can choose to let go of that rule. So for me, for like 2 months or something like that, I made a rule every single day, regardless of how I feel. I don't care if I have a headache or if I'm sick or whatever, I'm showing up and I'm selling. There are no excuses, right? Because if I knew that there was an excuse to not show up, my ego was going to take it, because my ego is going to do everything to not push me out of my comfort zone, because the ego is programmed for survival. It doesn't want you to feel unsafe, because that's going to affect your survival, right? So that's a trigger to your safety. So the ego is going to literally take any option that it can. I've worked with clients who their ego will actually make sickness in their body. It will actually create sickness on the days that they had to do something that was pushing them out of their comfort zone. So they would literally create illness. And in order to work through this, they had to work through the illness so the pattern stopped fucking happening, right? And it was like clockwork. Every single time they went to go do the thing that was scaring them, their body would, they would become sick. So for me, it's like that's what would happen. It's like when I stopped listening to the limiting beliefs with the selling, it was like my ego was trying to find something else. Okay. It was trying to create like overwhelm. It's like, oh, now you don't have time to sell. And it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to, like, regardless of if it's 10 o'clock at night or 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm still going to put something out there and I'm going to sell if it kills me, right? It's like, I'm going to do it, right? So it's like having no out and being like, even if I'm sick, I'm fucking selling, right? I'm putting something out there and I'm selling my offer. And then that way it gave my ego no option but to do the thing that was scaring me. I had no out. And for like, I think, yeah, I can't remember how long it was, but I did it for a long time. And then all of a sudden it's just something that became a habit that I didn't even think about, that I actually started to fucking love. And it was the thing that made sense, because I was stepping into this thriving entrepreneur, that the thriving entrepreneurial version of me wasn't sitting there going, I don't like selling makes me feel icky and I feel like nobody's there. No, the thriving entrepreneur has people responding to her, has people jumping into her office, is excited to call people in, right? And she was moving so differently. And when I actually started to move in alignment with her and I faced all of the egoic shit, so not only was I taking the action, this is really important to understand, I was actually dealing with the shit that was coming up, which is what I wasn't doing for so long. I actually had no choice but to deal with that misaligned energy, because that's actually what was misaligned. And when I did that, then I was able to transmute all that bullshit and actually step into this thriving entrepreneur who was able to actually change my outer reality, right? Who was actually able to walk in alignment with what it meant to have a business that was like in demand. Do you know what I mean? So it started with this. This is what I had to do. I had to actually create different habits and give myself no out. This is like my favorite way, the easiest way to get over like ego is to like do the thing that is scaring the fucking shit out of you again and again and again and again until you're just not afraid of it anymore. This is like how I've overcome any fear that I've had at every like step along the way in my business. Like when I was first afraid of showing up, like I just forced myself. I just kept forcing myself to like face the fear until I just transmuted it. So this is what I recommend doing. And this is also like my tactic for growth in business as well, with like whenever I know that I'm ready to reach my next level and I'm like, I'm fucking in this, I always invest. That's like my biggest thing because I value where I put my money. So I love fucking investing because I'm like, I'm doing this and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And for me, it's like, now you have no option but to show up. So I love it. Like that's my energy. That's how I've always been. If you are similar, if you're at this like place where you're just like, I'm fucking in this, I'm ready to blow the next half of 2024 out of the water with my business. I'm ready to take this to the fucking next level. And you want to put your money where your mouth is, then I wanted to invite you into one-on-one coaching with me. If you're ready to see your shadow self in this way, if you're not resistant to getting coaching and you're ready to see all parts of yourself but actually transmute it and actually walk in alignment with the life that you came here to create. If you're not fucking around anymore, if you're like, this is happening, this is it, and you have that like conviction, DM me. I'm currently taking on one-on-one clients and I would love to work with you. I will never ever force anything onto you as well. I know a lot of people can be resistant to DMing because they're like, oh, I'm awkward if I don't actually want to do it. What happens if I decide that it's an aligned no? And how am I going to tell her that, right? It's just like, honor that. Own that. You know what I mean? Like I want you to own your aligned no, because this space is only for the fuck yes clients. It's not for the people who are feeling the no. If you're feeling the no, this isn't a right match, right? And I want you to honor that so much. So I will never ever push you, force you, or anything like that. This space is only open so we can have a conversation about what you're looking for and we can decide, you know, is this the right next step for you? It might be a yes, it might be a no. Sometimes you just need to have the conversation, a little bit of a back and forth, and also you get a feel for my energy, I get a feel for yours, and we can decide, you know, do we go on this journey together or not? So I really want to say that you're not going to get trapped, and if you do end up realizing that it's an aligned no for you, then what an amazing way for you to actually honor that energy, like honor the aligned no that you feel and actually advocate for that and be like, yeah, actually it's not feeling right for me, right? And being able to own that and trust yourself in that as well. So if you're feeling the call, if you're getting a little bit curious and you're like, actually, I would really like to discuss what these spaces are like with you, what I'm needing support in, and just start a conversation in the DMs, contact me. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I'm happy to have a chat. And with that being said, I'm going to end this live here. It's been so lovely hanging out with you today. And yeah, here's to your massive success, babe. I will see you on the grams.